Welcome everyone to Things Around 8. Dear friends, in this video we will talk about a statement made by a high-ranking Chechen military commander, who confirmed that the Russian armed forces will begin sending young recruits to invade Ukraine. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any news. Military service is one of the most important activities in any nation, as it is directly related to ensuring internal law and order, and just as importantly, to the security of the country's territorial integrity in the face of external threats. But this is a relatively recent activity in historical terms. In the past, about 200 or 300 years ago, states limited themselves to hunting men on the streets to fill their ranks in case of war, something that was known in the British Empire as press gang, when security agents entered bars, squares and shops, beating, arresting and forcing men into military service, a very common practice, especially in the Royal Navy, which needed to reinforce its crews during conflicts. At that time, the number of professional military personnel with training and experience was very small, usually forming a small nucleus, which was reinforced by individuals with little or no military training. The concept of military service, as we know it today, only began to emerge at the end of the 18th century, in the wake of the French Revolution. But the final big boost came with the First World War, the first conflict in history that involved millions of soldiers. When that war ended in 1918, nations became aware of the importance of always having a regular military force available, well-trained and well-equipped, ready to intervene in any emergency. This resulted in the formation of a reserve force, which nations called upon in the event of war. Today, there are essentially two styles of military service: the professional type, in which young people, usually between the ages of 17 and 18, volunteer, and the mandatory one, in which, as the name suggests, all young men must report to a draft station, where they may or may not be selected for military service, which, as a rule, usually lasts between 1 and 3 years. These young men are the famous recruits, men and in some countries like Israel also women, recently out of puberty, who dedicate themselves during the period of service to physical improvement and training in weapons and combat tactics. At the end of their military service, these young men, as I mentioned, go into the reserve, from where they can be called up whenever necessary, usually in response to military emergencies or major natural disasters. Therefore, as a general rule, conscripts do not usually go to war, because, as I mentioned, they are young people still undergoing training and physical development. Of course, the rules vary greatly from country to country, and can also change greatly depending on the context. But in general, in the event of war, the first to be sent are reservists recruited by the armed forces or experienced military personnel with a contract signed for a predetermined period of service, which is exactly what Russia did when it invaded Ukraine on February 24, 2022. The first wave of assault launched by Putin against Ukraine was made up exclusively of contracted military personnel. It is estimated that 150 to 200,000 military personnel, with an average age of around 26, signed contracts with the Russian Ministry of Defense, providing for operational deployments of up to 12 months. As the weeks and months passed, this initial Russian force was gradually depleted, forcing Putin to launch, in September 2022, 6.5 months after the start of his war, a major troop mobilization operation, which resulted, according to the Kremlin, in the recruitment of 300,000 new soldiers, all of them reservists with an average age of 29. However, as happened with the first wave of 200,000 contracted soldiers, the second wave of 300,000 reservists also ran out, forcing Putin to step up his campaign in 2023 to recruit reservists through financially very attractive contracts. According to information from the Russian Ministry of Defense, in 2023, around 400,000 reservists signed contracts with the Kremlin. With this voluntary recruitment campaign through the signing of contracts, now continuing throughout 2024, as has become quite clear, Russia, in the 2.5 years of its invasion of Ukraine, has not sent its recruits to war, with Putin trying throughout this time to maintain a constant flow of soldiers for his invasion, through mobilizations and campaigns for the signing of contracts, and always targeting reservists. However, according to the RBC Group, a Russian media group based in Moscow, this is about to change. In a report published on Monday, April 19, Major General Abdialadinov, commander of the Chechen Special Forces Akhmet, said that young recruits will serve in the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and that the first will be Chechens. In the interview, the Chechen commander says that, unlike before, there is now a war. This is probably a reference to the Ukrainian invasion of the Russian Kursk region, which began on August 6, and that is why, in his view, conscripts, who are full-fledged military personnel, can and should be sent to war. According to Russian law, conscripts can only be sent to combat in declared wars. However, as we know, Vladimir Putin does not see the biggest European conflict in the last 80 years as a war, insisting on referring to it as a mere special military operation. And so, since there is no declaration of war, legally Russian conscripts cannot be sent to the front lines. But we know that the Russian constitution and laws adapt to the moods and desires of the Russian leadership, as proven by the statements of the Chechen commander that conscripts will be sent to war. According to reports, only the Russian Republic of Chechnya has officially announced the sending of conscripts. However, since everything involving war requires Putin's personal approval, it is believed that it is only a matter of time before other Russian republics and Russia itself also begin sending their 17 and 18-year-olds to invade Ukraine. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now and activate the notification bells so you don't miss any news.